show me more little pieces.
Where is Catherine? Why isn't she here with us?
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel, where the intricate dance of diplomacy, royalty, and global power plays always takes center stage. Today, we are diving into a moment that has not only stunned global audiences, but also ignited conversations in corridors of influence and stirred debates among those who usually watch monarchy and politics with folded arms. This is not just another royal appearance. It is a scene that has left insiders buzzing, commentators scrambling for explanations, and even the most skeptical observers leaning forward in curiosity. Picture this: a sunlit afternoon at Windsor Castle. The golden light of early autumn filtering through centuries-old stained glass windows. The crisp scent of freshly cut lawns blending with the hushed musk of ancient leather-bound volumes stored within the castle's heart. It was on this very day that First Lady Melania Trump, poised statuesque and carrying herself with the practiced grace of someone well acquainted with the world's gaze, walked through the hallowed halls of the royal library. By her side, Queen Camilla, every inch the seasoned royal consort, projected warmth, dignity, and quiet authority. The moment was supposed to symbolize harmony, an elegant tableau of transatlantic unity. Two women, one representing the White House, the other the monarchy, side by side in a tour of treasures preserved across centuries. The cameras were rolling discreetly. The atmosphere was formal, almost serene. But then, like a pebble dropped into still water, Melania's voice, soft yet cutting through the silence, posed a question no one expected. "Where is Queen Catherine?" The words were simple, almost casual, but the impact was seismic. The stillness of the library suddenly felt heavy. The towering shelves of illuminated manuscripts, folios, and royal letters seemed in that instant to lean in, bearing witness to a subtle yet profound disruption of protocol. Whispers raced across social media within hours. Headlines erupted with speculation. And soon, the absence of one woman became the most commanding presence of all. This was not a mere slip of the tongue, nor a polite inquiry. This was a revelation, a subtle yet undeniable acknowledgement of Catherine's extraordinary significance, not just within palace walls, but across the global imagination. In that single question, Melania Trump had crystallized what millions silently feel. Catherine is not only admired, she is indispensable. But to truly grasp the weight of this electrifying moment, we need to step back and frame it within the grander stage upon which it unfolded. So, before we unpack every layer of that library encounter, take a second to hit the like button if you live for royal intrigue, and subscribe to stay ahead of every palace twist, every political turn, and every diplomatic spark that lights up history in the making. Now, let's journey back. Let's rewind to the glittering prelude that set the scene for this unforgettable question: the state visit of President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania to the United Kingdom in mid-September. 2025 was more than just a formal exchange. It was billed as a triumphant return, a diplomatic bridge rebuilt after years of headlines dominated by tension, criticism, and fractured alliances. For both sides, this visit represented more than ceremony. It was an opportunity to recalibrate, to project strength, and to reassure the watching world that the special relationship between Washington and London still stood as one of the pillars of global order. King Charles III and Queen Camilla threw open the great doors of Windsor Castle, rolling out the crimson carpet with deliberate grandeur. For 2 days, the castle became not just a royal residence, but a stage upon which the echoes of history mingled with the possibilities of the future. The state banquet glittered beneath chandeliers, dripping with crystal, silverware polished to a mirror shine, and orchestral music weaving through the air like a memory of empire. Ceremonial inspections on the castle grounds unfolded with military precision, scarlet tunics blazing against the green expanse of Windsor lawns. Every detail, from the floral arrangements to the toasts, carried meaning. Tradition intertwined with modern flair, sending an unmistakable message: Britain remained anchored in history, yet alive to contemporary diplomacy. And there, among it all, was Melania Trump. Far from being a silent accessory to her husband's political theater, she emerged as a figure of quiet yet undeniable influence. Her carefully tailored ensembles, her multilingual ease, her calm and composed bearing all spoke of someone who understood her role not merely as supportive, but symbolic. She was the velvet touch to balance the sharp edges of political discourse. Queen Camilla, meanwhile, stepped confidently into her role as consort. Warm, approachable, yet mindful of the crown's gravitas, she orchestrated moments of connection that went beyond the pomp. Together, she and Melania embarked on engagements designed not just for the cameras, but to convey shared values, visits to community projects, heartfelt conversations on women's initiatives, and, ultimately, that private tours of the Royal Library, Sanctuary of Knowledge, where monarchs for centuries have sought wisdom and refuge. Yet beneath the surface, currents swirled. Catherine, Princess of Wales, had been a fixture in earlier moments of the visit. Her luminous presence at receptions and ceremonies had both charmed guests and soothed tensions. And yet, in this more intimate inner sanctum of royal history, she was conspicuously absent. Which brings us back to that question. Melania's words, though spoken gently, echoed the thoughts of millions. Where is Catherine? For countless people across the globe, Catherine is not merely a princess. She is the future embodiment of the monarchy itself, queen-in-waiting whose every appearance captures the public imagination, whose every absence sparks speculation. And so, when Melania asked aloud what many had silently wondered, the atmosphere shifted. The casual became monumental. The personal became political. The absence became presence inside the library. Oak shelves rose like ancient guardians, cradling first editions, royal manuscripts, and centuries of memory. Camilla, eager to share her passion for literature, guided Melania from treasure to treasure, a Shakespeare folio that had once graced Elizabeth II's desk, maps charting the far reaches of the empire, prayer books that whispered of devotion and duty. Melania listened with quiet intensity, her nods precise. Her gaze, deliberate and experienced hostess herself. She knew the importance of both words and silences. But when they paused before a display of illuminated prayer books, Melania's eyes drifted to an empty space, literal and symbolic. And then, with an accent soft yet sharp with sincerity, she spoke. "It's such a magnificent place. I was hoping to see Queen Catherine here. Where is she today?" For a heartbeat, silence reigned. Camilla, seasoned in courtly composure, allowed only the briefest flicker of surprise before smoothing it over with a polished smile. "Oh, Catherine is resting today, focusing on her family," she answered, her tone as smooth as marble, practiced, perfect. But the crackle in the air was undeniable. This was more than small talk. This was instinct meeting symbolism. It was recognition, acknowledgement that Catherine, even in her absence, defined the atmosphere, the expectation, the very conversation. And just like that, what began as a simple tour of books and manuscripts became something else entirely, a moment that would ripple outward, affirming Catherine's centrality in ways no official statement could ever achieve. To understand just how much weight those words carried, we must zoom out again beyond the shelves of the Royal Library, beyond the gilded halls of Windsor to the broader canvas of this state visit, where every handshake, every smile, and every pause carried the freight of history, diplomacy, and the unspoken battle for narrative. Melania, sources later revealed, confided to one of her closest aides that she simply couldn't ignore Catherine's absence. "She understands the balance," the First Lady reportedly said, underscoring that her question hadn't been staged, but had surfaced naturally like a bridge extended across an empty chair. The absence felt real, visible, and it demanded acknowledgement. Camilla, seasoned and composed, recovered with practiced elegance. She steered the conversation back to safer ground, drawing Melania's attention to a nearby case of Victorian novels. Outwardly, it was a smooth pivot, but the seed had already been planted, and its echoes were swift and unstoppable. Within hours, social media lit up like dry tinder catching flame. Users dissected footage of the tour with forensic intensity, zooming in on facial expressions, reading lips, and scrutinizing timelines. Melania just called her Queen Catherine. "Iconic," declared one viral post, quickly amassing tens of thousands of likes. Another quipped, "Camilla's face said it allocates the real star." These weren't just throwaway memes or idle gossip. They tapped into something far deeper, a narrative that had been building for months, even years. At the heart of it lay Catherine's health journey. Announced in early 2025, her battle with cancer had shaken the world. In January, she shared a candid update from the Royal Marsden Hospital, revealing she was in remission after months of grueling chemotherapy. Her words, "I am learning to be patient, especially with uncertainty," struck a universal chord. Accompanied by tender photographs with Prince William and their children, the message was not just a health bulletin. It was a masterclass in resilience, vulnerability, and grace under pressure. The public response was overwhelming. Waves of cards, letters, and gifts poured into palace gates. Messages of solidarity arrived from every corner of the globe, from schoolchildren to heads of state. Catherine had, without trying, become a symbol not just of the monarchy, but of courage itself. By September, she had begun easing back into royal duties. Each appearance was deliberate, carefully chosen, measured but immensely meaningful. The state visit, therefore, was more than a diplomatic event. It was a stage for Catherine to demonstrate recovery, renewal, and continuity. Yet her selective schedule inevitably sparked whispers. Was it fatigue? A family priority? Or was it perhaps a carefully choreographed reminder of her irreplaceable role in the monarchy's future? Melania's inquiry cut through all the speculation with startling clarity. Catherine was not a supporting act. She was the gravitational center. In a monarchy redefining itself under Charles, it was Catherine radiant, resilient, relatable who anchored public affection. Her absence from that library was not a diminishment. It was, paradoxically, a spotlight dot as the tour pressed forward. Camilla did what she does best. She carried on with poise. She highlighted a rare Jane Austen manuscript, quipping with practiced charm. "This place has seen more plots than a Shakespeare play." Melania laughed warmly, her interest genuine. The First Lady, whose White House years had included quiet evenings spent with biographies and histories, leaned in with thoughtful questions about preservation techniques and the conservation of centuries-old texts. For a moment, it was a reprieve from the heavier symbolism of the day to women bonding over their shared love of books, navigating the intersection of intellect and diplomacy. Yet as they entered a smaller alcove lined with illuminated manuscripts, the mood shifted again. This space, hushed and intimate, felt almost conspiratorial. Melania reflected aloud on her own time in the East Wing, sharing anecdotes of hosting literary figures and how books had offered her solace during turbulent political storms. Camilla responded in kind, recalling her own escapes into fiction during the most difficult chapters of royal life. The rapport was real, almost tender, a fleeting glimpse of two women lowering their guard. Then came the pivot. Standing before a display of royal portraits, Melania's gaze swept the room, her expression tinged with mild puzzlement. "I enjoyed speaking with Catherine earlier," she said softly, her tone layered with admiration. "Such a warm soul. Where is Queen Catherine today?" The phrasing was deliberate, diplomatic. In international circles, it's not uncommon to address a future queen with the title she is destined to bear. And in those 3 words, Queen Catherine, the First Lady, had intentionally or not offered a nod to destiny. Camilla's reply was textbook graciousness. With a smile, she explained that Catherine was focusing on her family and her continued recovery. Her tone was even, but observant aides noticed a subtle tell. The Queen's hand tightened briefly around her handbag, a fleeting sign of navigating an emotionally charged undercurrent. Melania, sensing the moment, smoothed it over with a compliment on the exhibition's thoughtfulness. Outwardly, the tension dissolved, but those present knew it had marked a shift. What made this exchange so powerful was its authenticity. It wasn't scripted. It wasn't staged. It was real, one woman voicing what millions were thinking. Palace insiders later described the library tour as intimate by design, a quiet interlude away from the rigid choreography of statecraft. It was meant to foster connection, and in a way, it did. Melania's question wasn't it was born of admiration. She and Catherine had met at international gatherings before, their exchanges always marked by mutual empathy for the intense scrutiny they lived under. "Melania sees Catherine as a kindred spirit," one U.S. official said, recalling how the First Lady had privately praised Catherine's handling of her diagnosis. As a lesson in quiet courage, Camilla herself has long championed Catherine, often crediting her with injecting youthful energy into the institution. Yet in that alcove, the generational contrast was clear. Camilla represented tradition, stability, continuity. Catherine embodied the future, modernity, and a monarchy that could adapt without losing itself. The shockwaves began subtly, an exchanged glance between aides. a slight murmur among staff. But once words seeped beyond those stone walls, it escalated quickly. By the time the tour concluded, snippets were already filtering into the press pool stationed outside. By evening, the moment had exploded into headlines. Some outlets framed it as a diplomatic gaffe, others as a heartfelt homage. But beneath the spin, the truth was undeniable. This was no slip. It was a mirror held up to the monarchy, reflecting Catherine's irrefutable centrality. And once the library doors closed, the private moment became a public phenomenon. Containment, in today's world of smartphones and constant connectivity, was impossible. Within hours, clips and whispers had gone viral. On X, hashtags like #WhereIsCatherine and #QueenKate trended globally. A grainy clip of Melania's lips forming the words circulated endlessly, paired with captions like, "Did she just call Kate Queen? Camilla's face is priceless." One influencer's post alone racked up more than 50,000 interactions by nightfall. Traditional media piled on. The Sun splashed with a headline, "Melania's mystery query stuns Camilla." CNN dissected it as a subtle nod to the monarchy's future. Across the Atlantic, Fox News spun it as a compliment that crowned Kate early, while the New York Times framed it as proof of Catherine's global resonance. The shock lay not merely in Melania's words, but in their context. Catherine had appeared earlier in the day, radiant and engaging. Chatting with Melania about school runs and sustainable fashion during the tripulanting ceremony, Catherine brings light wherever she goes. Melania later told reporters an, unprompted, effusive praise that added weight to her later query. For many, her absence in the library was like a missing brushstroke in a masterpiece. And so, speculation roared. Forums buzzed with theories. Was Catherine unwell? Was it a strategic decision to give Camilla her spotlight? Or was it, as some optimistically believed, a sign that Catherine was asserting her own power to choose? Whatever the truth, Melania's simple question cut through the noise. It wasn't just a query. It was a clarion call, a collective echo of what millions already felt. Catherine isn't simply a participant. She is the axis around which the monarchy turns. Public reaction tilted almost entirely in Catherine's favor, with snap polls showing that nearly 78% of respondents now view her as the monarchy's most trusted figurehead. The tiny minority who muttered about protocol breaches found themselves drowned out by a tidal wave of admiration. The sentiment wasn't limited to Britain, either; it spread globally. Celebrities lent their voices. Oprah Winfrey resurfaced a throwback photo of Catherine at a children's charity event, captioning it simply, "The Queen we need always." American late-night hosts joked. Commentators debated, and European outlets framed the moment as symbolic of a monarchy in transition. Even in diplomatic corridors, it landed as a soft power triumph, reminding the world that royal symbolism often achieves what formal policy cannot. Camilla, far from diminished, navigated the storm with grace. Her ability to absorb the slip and redirect the tour flow earned praise as queenly finesse. Yet the clear victor was Catherine. Her role, already essential, was now etched deeper into the collective imagination. This wasn't erosion of tradition. It was elevation of the future. To grasp why Catherine's absence struck so profoundly, you have to step into her orbit, a space where duty is balanced against deeply personal struggles. The Princess of Wales has always embodied that balance. Since her devastating cancer diagnosis in early 2024, followed by that unflinching March video, she has lived in the public eye with a blend of candor and courage. By September 2025, remission was official, but the recovery journey was ongoing. Some days were harder than others. And so she learned to redefine power not as pushing through, but as pacing herself. Her September 9th Instagram post said it all. A casual snap with George, Charlotte, and Louis playing among autumn leaves. Captioned, "I'm taking each day as it comes." Vulnerable yet vibrant. It was classic Catherine, inviting empathy without seeking pity. Her decision to skip the library wasn't a whim. It was wisdom. Advisors had carefully structured her schedule to maximize her visibility without draining her strength. Outdoor welcomes offered fresh air and flexibility. The library, by contrast, meant enclosed halls and long hours, standing risk factors for someone still rebuilding stamina. Catherine knows her limits no end. That's her strength, an insider confided. Echoing words she herself had shared at the Royal Marsden Hospital earlier in the year. That's why Melania's query struck such a chord. It wasn't nosy. It was poignant recognition. Melania, too, had endured life in a relentless spotlight. Earlier that same day at the tree planting ceremony, Catherine had admitted how small joys like quiet breakfasts or school drop-offs anchored her healing. Melania nodded, offering stories of Baron's quiet passions, her tone almost conspiratorial in its empathy. This wasn't withdrawal. This was reclamation of privacy and choice. For years, William and Catherine have fought to preserve a semblance of normal family life school runs at Lambrook, evenings tucked away at Adelaide Cottage. The state visit stretched that equilibrium, but it also proved Catherine's resolve. She showed up where she could give her best, and stepped back where wisdom demanded rest. William's protectiveness sharpened this shield. Behind the scenes, the couple weighed each appearance late into the night, asking the same question: does this serve our family, or does it take from it? William's refrain reportedly was, "We show up as the best versions of ourselves, or not at all." Their unity was forged in fire. Grief for Queen Elizabeth, Catherine's health ordeal, relentless scrutiny, all of it hardened their determination to lead on their terms. Melania's question, though simple, it affirmed Catherine not as fragile but as formidable, and in doing so, it shifted perception. Overnight, Catherine became not just a future queen, but a symbol of resilience itself. Clarence House issued a polite statement praising the warm exchanges of the day, but the real coronation happened online. Fan accounts flooded timelines with montages, her trooping the color wave, her hospital visits post-diagnosis, her Christmas carol service that brought millions to tears. Melania gets it. Kate is our queen, one post read, amassing hundreds of thousands of likes. Even inside the royal family, there was quiet acknowledgement. William reportedly chuckled over dinner, raising his glass to the question that answered everything. King Charles, ever mindful of optics, recognized it as validation of his slimmed-down monarchy, vision, modern, empathetic, grounded. Even Camilla embraced it, confiding later to friends that the moment highlighted our greatest asset. Far from rivalry, it revealed a delicate partnership. Camilla's seasoned steadiness complemented Catherine's youthful magnetism, and the numbers confirmed it. Approval ratings surged, Catherine's climbing to 85%, with analysts attributing the bump directly to the viral moment. It was a generational signal. This crown could adapt. Zoom out, and you see what really happened. A First Lady's casual remark became a mirror for the monarchy's future. The Windsor dynasty has weathered abdications, divorces, scandals, and exile. But Catherine's chapter promises something different. Adaptation through empathy. Transparency as armor. Boundaries as strength. Her absence in the library was not a void, it was a lesson. She is choosing presence over performance. William stands beside her, their partnership rewriting what royal duty means in the 21st century: authentic, human, yet still grand enough to inspire. For the monarchy, it's survival. For the public, it's reassurance. For Catherine, it's personal vindication. And for us watching, Melania's whispered query will echo for years, a single question that crystallized a truth millions already felt. Catherine is the monarchy's North Star. So, what do you think? Did Melania's words surprise you, or were they the perfect acknowledgement of Catherine's queenly essence? Do you believe this marks the dawn of a warmer, wiser royal era? Share your thoughts below. Hit like if this hooked you, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories behind the crown. Because in royalty, every absence speaks louder than words.